I call to order the Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, May 20th. Commissioner Smith, if you would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Petches, if you please call the roll.
Commissioner Eggleston?
Here.
Commissioner Barnes?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Chair Darden?
Here.
Commissioner Crandall? Here. Commissioner Rulon? Here. Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Okay, thank you, Jim. We have one set of minutes from the Planning Commission meeting of May 6th. And I will be abstaining as I had to recuse for most of the meeting that night.
And so will I.
Is there a motion or are there changes?
So move if there are no changes.
All in favor?
Aye.
And two abstentions.
Two abstentions.
Okay, 5-1-0-0.
5-0.
Good, thank you for doing the math for me. Clearly, it was beyond my capability. All right, that brings us to oral and written communication. At this point in the evening, members of the audience may address the commission on matters of public interest which pertain to the city but are not otherwise on our agenda. If you wish to speak, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and make your presentations. Please limit your presentations to 3 minutes. Do we have any cards, Eileen?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, and seeing no one step forward, we'll move on to the public hearing process. And the public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony. To facilitate the meeting for all attendees, the public is asked to limit their individual presentation to 3 minutes. Following closure of the public hearing, the Planning Commission will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. The first item on our agenda is item 8A, 653 Camino de los Mares, discretionary sign permit 13-243, SC Professional Plaza Monument sign. Welcome, Sean Nicholas.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Sean Nicholas, Project Planner. This is discretionary sign permit 13-243 for the SC Professional Plaza Monument sign. Just to orient everyone, this is our on Camino de los Mares. It is 3 small buildings, commercial buildings are associated with this, primarily office space is in there. It is a multi-tenant facility. Here you can see in the middle of the screen where the sign, it is set back 21 feet from the right-of-way in an existing large landscaped area. It has been reviewed by the engineering division and they have no concerns associated with its placement, associated with impacting any kind of site distances along Camino de los Mares. Here is our proposed design. It is proposed to be 7 feet tall and an approximately 46 square feet of actual sign area. As I said, it is a multi-tenant commercial facility, so it'll be providing space for many of the tenants within the facility. Each of the individual panels are aluminum with white with the dark brown lettering on the white face, and it'll have external illumination upon it with the more decorative kind of identification for the whole plaza itself there on the right. What I wanted to show you is kind of how we've gotten to this point. This, as you can see, it's gone through a number of iterations and through the design review subcommittee process. On the left is actually the original proposal by the applicant, and then after some work by them in a number of iterations between the first and the second presentation to the design review subcommittee, they were able to come up with that, and then ultimately, as I said, end up on this final design. Even with the proposed project, this proposed sign for the site, it is would only be out there in total 185 square feet of signage, where 366 square feet of signage is permitted based on their frontage. With that, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve discretionary sign permit for the SC Professional Plaza Monument sign. Staff is available to address any of the Planning Commissioner's questions. Unfortunately, the applicant was not able to attend the meeting this evening. They have provided a statement to the Planning Commission stating that they had read and reviewed the conditions of approval in the staff report and were in support of the project, in support of the conditions of approval, and asked for Planning Commission support.
Thank you, Sean. And Michael?
Sean, you showed the first sign, and I thought I saw that it was 5 feet tall, and the second one 7 feet tall.
No, this is 7 feet tall, both of them.
Both
the
of
same
them?
picture. Yeah.
Okay,
It's 7
all right.
feet tall.
All right, I must have looked at another one, because I thought there were two different heights. So they've always been 7?
7 feet tall. And actually, I believe it was brought taller before in the final iteration. It was brought
Okay,
down some.
and so my other question is that there's a very similar sign to this at the site, on the other side of the parking lot. And it looks to be roughly same height, same type of proportion. Did you check that at all?
Yeah, that was something we looked at actually in the second design review subcommittee report. Actually, I had actually provided a picture of that sign and kind of trying to look at comparisons of the design of this sign. We obviously did look at signage surrounding. The sign that you're referencing, Commissioner Smith, is actually on the it's not associated with this project. It's the adjacent properties monument sign. But again, in terms of the design, this particular component's consistency with the design of this building, design review and staff felt that this was the superior design associated with this and would be more compatible with this project site.
Thanks.
Absolutely, sir.
Bonnie and then Wayne?
Sure. Hi, Sean.
Good evening.
I do have some questions, having been to the site. And I wanted to ask, I noticed that the height is 7 feet and the allowed height is 6. But I noticed that the location for the sign is on up a slope and it's much higher than the roadway is. And I was wondering what the height was from the roadway up to the top of the, I want to say, plateau where the sign is going to be. What is that height?
You know, I don't have the grade difference between the top of the sign and from the street. And just to clarify the statement about the 6 feet, the code allows by right if the sign is 32 square feet in terms of sign area, because it is a multi-tenant building, and up to 6 feet in tall, all it would require is an administrative sign permit. It is allowed to go above the 32 square feet, up to 64 square feet, and up to 10 feet tall with the approval of discretionary sign permit. Again, in this situation, they're only proposing 7 feet tall and 46 square feet of sign area. So it is within the allowance with the code with the approval of the discretionary sign permit.
Okay, so we'll be starting with the sign. My estimate, since it wasn't measured, I'm guessing it's about 4 feet higher than the roadway, or a little bit more. And so if you add that to the 7 feet, that's actually about 11 feet up. And I was noticing, did they check into the tree canopies that were hanging down over where the sign is to be located in terms of visibility?
Again, the placement of signs, that's a function of the private side and their applicant and their client in terms of determining where they wanted the sign, and they felt that this was the best location for them. And again, in terms of how we measure signage, it's located from, the base of where it's at, the footings up, from kind of the finished floor up, and again,
Okay.
that maximum height is 7 feet.
Okay, so the next question would be, this sign is perpendicular to the roadway, yes?
Yes.
Okay, what's on the other side?
It's a two-sided sign. It'll
Okay,
be the same on both sides.
It will be two-sided. Okay, so for the visual image that is on the second page of item 8A, it has 7 places for 7 tenant names. So does that mean there will be 7 tenant names on the other side too?
That's correct.
Okay. Did the applicant give you a roster of the businesses that are in there, those two? Business,
No.
the number?
No.
There's very many. There are a lot of businesses that are in there, and I didn't total them all up myself. But it doesn't appear that there's enough space on here to put the names of all the businesses.
Okay.
I
That's a
just-
function, again, of their design.
Yeah,
That's not
so
something that we necessarily
I don't know
dictate
who
to
gets to
them.
put their name on here.
I think.
That's pretty
Bonnie, it's-
typical, that
Yeah.
the main tenants will get the signage on the monument sign itself, just like the ones that were at Estrella Plaza. It was
Yeah.
only a few of the main anchor tenants that actually got their name out on the monument sign.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this one in the staff report, I believe it said that this was to give notice of the businesses in the back, if I'm reading that correctly in there.
It's
So-
for opportunities, yes, because
In the
there
back.
are 3 buildings and, you know, a lot of the businesses and the office space is located in the rear. So it provides opportunities and why staff is supportive of the monument sign, because tenants in the back would have the opportunity to be identified on this sign if they were selected to do so by the management company.
So the manager selects who gets to be on the, or?
Again, that's a function of
Okay.
the client and the applicant and the property owner and the business owners.
It is my understanding from reading the design subcommittee report that the sign on page 2 of, I think it's attachment 3, the pages aren't really numbered, but it's that picture of the adjacent sign that's illegal, and it doesn't say how it's illegal. And was there any study into what was wrong with that sign? Because it seems to me that it was recommended to approve this sign so that it would be compatible and harmonious with this illegal sign.
The illegal signs has to do with the small Best Coffee in Town and the Vape Oasis kind of sign that's just kind of put up there on top, and that was what was referenced to in there. In terms of the design scale and the location of the signs within the tenant spaces, that's all permitted, but the kind of the areas in which the extra signs have just been put in, that's the kind of unpermitted signs that have just been placed on that monument sign out there is what I was referring to.
Okay.
Because we were looking at, again, the overall design, the trellis feature with the stucco columns, with the potential, originally, a concept idea was that they wanted to do internal illumination, so we were looking at, well, if they were going to do internal illumination, that was potentially a design aspect to take a look at. Again, to be consistent is kind of what Commissioner Smith was referring to.
Would the applicant be willing to have better contrast on the numerals, the 655 and 657, between that and the background that it's on so that you could see it?
I would assume that that's not probably a big deal. So if that would be
Because for
something.
me, that's about the most important thing to see. I'm assuming they want to see, people to see this while they're driving along the roadway that's down lower, and then they have to look up through the tree canopies that someone will have to look into that. But you want to see the address. When you're looking for, there's so many professional buildings of different types in the 3 buildings there. That should be really about the most important thing. First you get the number of the building that you want, and then you try to find the vendor that you're trying to go see, so.
Absolutely, and if that's something the commission would like to see have happen, condition it for the further contrast of the address, I wouldn't think that that's an unreasonable request, Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Don?
Yes, looking at the design review notes, I think we've come a long way from a pole sign concept that first came in the door.
That was.
And so I want to commend staff and then ultimately design review for getting this, back down to where it's a very good sign. It matches the building it's with. The sign up the road, of course, is a different architecture and more appropriate for that design. So I'm supportive of this project and the sign. I think staff and design review have done a very good job, and so I have no other comments to make about it. I'm very happy with what you've come forward with. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just a quick question. Do either you or Jim know what the building setback is on that property?
It looks like probably from property line, probably something close to 19 feet from property line.
And we are, what, 14, 15 back from property line?
It's 21, yeah, so probably about
21.
13, so
13,
7,
okay.
8 minus, 21 minus 7, 8, so 13 something,
Okay.
13, 4.
Yeah, we reviewed this in design review, and it came a long ways, and the fact, one of the things we requested was that the trellis mimic the one that's adjacent to the building and behind it. And that's how this evolved, and I think as an overall package, it's a good solution, and I'm in support of it.
Okay, are there any other, I'm sorry, Wayne. Questions for staff?
Yeah, I'm going to read something, and then maybe you can interpret it for me, okay? The total square footage for signs on site is 139 square feet. And so on site with all the signs on this project, it's 139 square feet, is that correct?
Yeah, and that was information provided by the applicant.
With the additional 46 square feet of sign area proposed, the total sign area would be 185 square feet. And the total sign area permitted for the site is 366 square feet. Okay? So this is under the total square footage for all the signs on the property, is that correct?
This is under what the total signage square footage could be for the site, yes.
For the entire site?
For those three, for these associated with this area right here, that's correct.
Okay, all right, all right. I'm going to be supportive of the sign. I'm still, every time I see it, I call this a reader board sign. And I don't know, it just seems to me that when you're driving past at 25 or 30 miles an hour, it's very difficult to read signs like this. And I always like to have a monument sign with an address, which to me is much more, it has much more clarity than all these signs there. Now, will there be different tenant names on either side?
I don't know on what the plan is on that. They could have the same names on either side. They could have potentially, if, you know, as Commissioner Barnes says, if there's, you know, more than the 7 tenants, or I guess 14 tenants with dual-sided, there might be opportunities for everyone to have some
Yeah.
street presence in that sense. So I couldn't tell you what the plan is by the applicant on that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions for staff, we can open the, and you said your applicant is not here tonight.
That is correct.
Okay, so we'll open the public hearing, invite anybody who wishes to speak to this issue to come forward. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and invite discussion. Bart, you look like you have something to say.
I have one question that, fire department requires a address on the building that is legible and readable for the sign beyond this one. And I would think that if this one doesn't fully satisfy the addresses, each building is going to have an address on it that is visible by the fire department. So I think the building's identified by street address.
Yeah, there are signs on the building.
Jim?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm in support of this. We went through it all in that design review. You can see the iterations, as other people have said. Just to your comment, Vonnie, I see what you're saying with the numbers and wanting more contrast there. I kind of think that might be enough contrast, but I also know for these buildings, I've got a couple of physicians up there, and I always mess up the address in my head, and I always want to see, like, Dr. So-and-so up there. So that's actually, for me personally anyway, that's the priority. But, I wouldn't have a problem with changing the color of that, but I also am not sure it's, in my mind anyway, I don't think it's necessary. I think as it stands right now, I can support it, so.
Bonnie?
I have some physicians up there as well. And I'm wondering if people are depending on seeing the name, as some have mentioned that they're interested in. If the same names aren't on both sides of the sign, then maybe the one you're looking for, you're not going to see if they have different names on the different sides. So I'm really not comfortable with the amount of information that isn't there to approve this at this time.
I don't think it's within our purview to determine which tenants they can put on the sign. I think that's up to them. It's basically an advertising medium, and so it's up to the landlord to negotiate that as part of the lease.
I'm just saying, if you have a different information on one side that you have on the other side, then people driving one direction will get the information that's on one side only, and people driving the other way will get the information that way. That's the point I'm trying to make, not whose name gets on. So there's a problem I have with this. Sorry.
I don't think we can.
I think Julia made her point very well, that the sign seminar I went to said you can't govern the content. And they were very strict on that, and you can check with the city attorney. So we can't really dictate content, we just dictate appearance.
Mal, you're nodding.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, yeah, I'm nodding. The zoning code allows us to dictate the size, the shape, the structural elements of the sign. We cannot delve into content. Our ordinance, where it does even get close to content, has to be content neutral. When it comes to private signs like this for private business, the content of the signs, who gets to be placed there, is entirely a private business decision that the city simply can't regulate. Our code doesn't address that.
First Amendment rights.
Perhaps,
Thank you for that.
perhaps Sean can share your thoughts, though, with the applicant, and if they find that interesting, that they might have more effective advertising if they approach it a different way, they might, want to
Right.
consider that.
Well, with that said, without the, having a discretionary sign permit, with the 6-foot height limit, because the area is raised already 4 to 5 feet from the ground level, it already gives a height advantage to the sign. And since they didn't go into that to provide that information, I would think that the zoning code is quite adequate for the height. And since they can choose what they write on the information that's on there, they can adjust the size in the information. I think the zoning code has the sign right, and I agree with it.
And I,
Jim?
if I can, I'd forgotten, I wanted to address that. I remembered that you asked those questions, and I was going to address them, give my thoughts on them, I should say. The thing about the zoning code is greater than 6 feet is still allowed by the zoning code. It's just that in order to do that, you need the permission of the planning commission. So it's really a matter of, what's right or what's not right for a particular, applicant. We might go with a larger sign, especially if the ground maybe, went below the surface of the road. But I think too, if you look at these signs, it's an interesting thing that you brought up, because we've never sort of discussed it like that. When I think about it, I think about every sign, most of these signs are going to be above the roadbed, at least as to the height of the curb, if nothing else, because these signs are up on the curb, so that's whatever, 6 inches or however high the curb is. But I don't know that we've ever talked about someone, should, get smaller signs because of some raised grounds or not. I guess it didn't register as being enough with me, that raised to cause an issue with it. How I look at this with the monument signs, I'm usually not too fond of monument signs, but there's the condition about the design of the building dictating that a monument sign is really kind of needed in order to advertise what's in the building in an appropriate way. And that's kind of what it comes down to for me. And so judging from that, and, I think 7 feet, I'm still comfortable with it, 7 feet. At 10 feet, I probably wouldn't be, but it also comes back to the fact that if we give our permission, they aren't violating the code. I don't think after, what is the maximum, Sean? Is it 10 feet or, however far we can permit it?
So any monument sign above 6 feet in height up to 10 feet can be approved by the planning commission with a discretionary sign permit. Anything above 10 feet and above 64 square feet of sign area requires a sign exception permit.
Right, so we don't need, I think it's like a variance. You need a lot of good reasons for us to allow a variance, but we have, I think, a little more, discretion with between 6 and 10 feet in terms of, what's appropriate for the property and things like that. So that's kind of how I look at it. And certainly beyond 10 feet, we can't, right? That is outside of the zoning, no matter, what we would have to say about it.
It's pretty much where that dirt spot is, right there where they took down the old stuff.
See the trees.
It's right there.
I'm sorry, Don, go ahead. Did you have something?
No, I'm just ready to make a motion, or if there's no more comment.
I'm sorry, Michael had a, yes?
Can you see my thing with Jim's computer there?
Yes, I can, I just didn't see it this time,
Okay.
so I'm sorry.
I'm very supportive of the sign. I think that it looks pretty good. It certainly could be a lot worse. This has some design to it, matches the other sign across the way. I drive through that area all the time. It's hard to see addresses on buildings. This makes it easy. I've driven miles sometimes trying to find a building number that's on the building, but it's someplace really obscure, whereas this is out there, and it's a lot better than having nothing. So I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Don?
If there's no more discussion, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that the Planning Commission approves resolution number PC 15021, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Clemente approving discretionary sign permit 13-243, SC Professional Plaza Monument Sign for a monument sign 7 feet tall and over 32 square feet in sign area for a multi-tenant commercial center located at 653 Camino de los Mares.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that's 6-1. All right, thank you, Sean. And Sean, thank you very much for helping this applicant go through, which was a very long process for them in coming up with something that was compatible with the architecture and appropriate for the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay, so, oh, no wonder you're standing up there. It wasn't just to get compliments. That brings us to item 8B, which is conditional use permit 13-398, Cook Residence on
Eminencia
Eminencia. Oh,
del Norte.
thank you.
All right. Good evening again, Planning Commissioners. Sean Nicholas, Project Planner. This will be quick. Unfortunately, after the public notification was sent out on this project, it was determined that we needed some additional clarifications on the full scope of the work that was going to be occurring associated with this project. So at this time, staff just recommends tabling the item, and we'll renotice appropriately and bring it back when ready.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move we continue. To do a date uncertain. Excuse me, table.
Do we have a second? Second. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Bart. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes 7-0. Thank you, Sean. All right, that brings us to item 8C, which is Cultural Heritage Permit 14-107, McIlvain Edition. John Champa, welcome.
Good evening. John Champ, I'm the case planner. This is a cultural heritage permit to request for an addition to a historic structure. The project's located at 209 Avenida La Cuesta within the residential low with the 2 overlay zoning designation. Just to give you a little background on the property, it's a historic house that was built in 1945. At that time, the house was constructed as a 860 square foot home. In 1972, there was a 820 square foot addition that provided additional living area and a 2-car garage. In 2003, the property entered into a Mills Act with the city. Just to give you some context of the site, you could see here some photos of the garage and addition that was done in 1972. So you could see that that is not in keeping with the architectural design of the historic home. So as part of this and as part of the requirements for the Mills Act, this will be remodeled to be consistent with the Spanish colonial revival design of the historic structure. And also one point to note is just that the where these two structures intersect at the front of the house is a very awkward angle. And so as part of the design review process, the addition at the front of the house is proposed to address that and improve the front facade. So to jump into the project scope, the project would result in a 550 square foot addition and expand the house to 2,657 square feet. The front addition, as I previously mentioned, and garage remodel is intended to eliminate the awkward design of the garage and improve the floor plan, as well as the addition at the back. It would be provide an additional bedroom and bathroom and would not be visible from the street. The additions and garage remodel, as I previously said, are in a Spanish colonial revival design to be compatible with the historic structure, and the deck extension is at the back of the house, so that would also not be visible from the street. And as previously said, the project will complete the remaining Mills Act or HPPA improvements. This is a site plan, so here you can see the awkward angle where the original house and the garage and addition that was done in 1972 intersect. So it definitely created a negative impact to the historic structure. And back in 1972, we didn't have the protections that we do now for historic structures. So staff in the design review looked at this and went through a number of potential alternatives to provide some kind of resolution for that, and staff and the applicant came to an agreement that a small addition at the front in that intersection would eliminate that hard angle and help transition from that 1972 addition to the original house. And then you can also see the addition at the back of the house with the diagonal lines. So that is all located behind that front ridge line. Here are the front elevations. So you can see that the front addition helps with that transition. It incorporates Spanish colonial revival elements, including windows to match the existing windows that are a part of the original building, as well as the terracotta roof tile and a consistent plate line to help with that transition. Just the west elevation is another angle, just viewing that. Here's a rear elevation, just a simple rectangular shaped addition off the back to provide just some transition from the original house to the historic house and still be consistent with the architectural design. Staff has reviewed the project along with the design review subcommittee and felt that the project is compatible with the historic house. The remodel to the garage improves its compatibility with the historic house, and staff in the design or cultural heritage subcommittee believe that the project conforms to the Secretary of Interior standards, and it's not necessarily a finding, but another added benefit to this project is the owner will be completing their remaining historic property preservation agreement improvements. So that concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
John, I just had a question on the resolution. I'm pretty sure this is a typo. Is number 6 supposed to read prior to finagling of the building permit?
Oh, no. Hopefully there's no finagling going on.
I'm sure that's supposed to be, say, finalized.
That's something Eagleston would do.
No, that should be finaling. Thank you for
Okay,
catching that.
I just wanted to make sure. Are there some questions of staff?
I have a
Don?
couple, yeah. Because it's built in 1945, it's outside the period of normal historic regard by 7 or 8 years, I think, 1937 to 25. How did it even get on the historical list?
There is a second period.
The second period?
So it's within that second period,
Okay.
yeah. And it was evaluated as recently as 2006 as part of our
Yeah, I
historic
saw that.
survey,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
it is within it.
yeah, Don, you qualify for historic.
It's part of the it's part of the Eggleston era, is that what it is? Okay. Like equivalent to the Neanderthal era, okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff? I see that your applicant's here. Would he like to step forward? Hi, Mr. McElveen. Would you like to share anything with the commission?
I guess what I'd share is, it's been a long process. We've actually been going through this for about a couple of years now. We've worked hard to keep the original integrity of the home in mind, but also update it to meet the needs of the family. So we originally wanted a 2-story house to take better, opportunity of the view that crest affords. But given the conversations, I think we've settled on a good design that meets the integrity of the Ole Hansen home, and something we can live with as a family. So I'll be pleased if it can move forward finally. So hopefully we can get it done this year.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, with that, I'll open the public hearing and see if anybody wishes to step forward to speak to this issue. I see no one. Are there any cards, Eileen? Okay, then I'll close the public hearing. And I would just like to say that I'm very much in support of this project, and I appreciate Mr. McElvain persisting with his goal of improving the property, despite the fact that this was a very complex property to work with. And I think in the end, it's going to improve it for the community as a historic resource, and I hope it also improves it for your family. So we thank you for going through the process and making this effort. Jim?
Yeah, I'm gonna second what Julia said. We've gone through this, at least in the year that I've been on, we've gone through this a couple of times on the design review. We've gone through this a couple of times, and it seems a little large. If I was looking at this for most historical houses, I'd be concerned about the size. But a lot of that size was added on in the 70s, and a lot of the size that is going to be added on is either not visible or is very specific to, improving what's clearly some difficult or awkward aspects of the architecture. I think the applicants tried very hard to deal with a tough situation, quite frankly, that they were given by this improvement that was done in the 70s. And I think that the overall result is that it's going to be, as Julia said, a better historical resource. It's going to be an improvement on what it has now for the city. So I want to hear what everyone else has to say, but so in support of it.
Michael?
Well, I'm supportive of this, and I believe that it's an improvement over the existing design, and in a historical context, you're most concerned about changing a historical design, a facade, a look, by doing a remodel that would be a degradation of the original plan and design. In this case, it's just the opposite. It's an enhancement. Quite honestly, that flat parapet garage thing is really, seems to me, out of context, and with the roof, it's going to make the curb much more appealing for everybody. A good job by the owner.
Bonnie?
My thoughts as well. When I finagled over there to look at it, I saw the consistency with the fine job of this report as well by staff. And I think it'll be a very nice addition and a compliment to the rest of the surrounding neighborhood there.
Wayne?
I think it's a terrific redesign, and you guys on the design review get all the fun, to say the least, and I applaud the owner. I think it's terrific, and so I'll be very supportive of it.
We'll try to be sick more often so that you can have the fun, too.
Well, we had fun that one time, didn't we?
Okay, Bart?
Go ahead and make your comments on that.
Oh, I actually kind of led with them this time, so.
I would agree with what's said, and I want to compliment the owner on working with design review and the commission on downsizing this a little bit. And, I know a lot was the financial issue, but I think all in all, it came out to be an excellent project, and I'd be very happy to make a motion if we're ready. A motion, a resolution that we adopt the resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Clemente approving Cultural Heritage Permit 14107 McElvain Addition, a request to allow an addition, remodel, and deck extension to a single-story historic house located at 209 Avenida La Cuesta.
Second.
Oh, condition 6,
Okay, and with the one item on the
Condition number 6.
condition number 6 to be revised.
To say what?
to
From what to what?
Final from
Finagle.
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 Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 7-0. Congratulations, Mr. McElvain. Thank you again. Okay, that brings us to item 8D, conditional use permit 14-500, driven auto repair. Mr. Adamatamian.
Thank you, Chair Darden. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Adam Atamian. I'm the case manager for a conditional use permit being presented tonight for the driven auto repair. This is a proposal for an automotive repair facility located at 1385 Calle Avanzado. This is located at the very end of the Talega Business Park. And the specific particular business park that they're located in is the Avanzado Technology Park. The property is a 13,403 square foot lot. It has a 5,114 square foot unit on it. The site has its own access to particular use of a parking lot that has 13 parking spaces. It is located, as mentioned, in the Avanzado Technology Park, which is outlined in red on this map, which is a commercial center that has 9 units, and all of the other uses in the site are office. Things such as engineering firms, construction offices, real estate offices, and commercial sales offices. There is residential across the street on Pico. The closest residential property is approximately 275 feet away to the north. The applicant's proposal is for an automotive repair facility that would provide general repair and maintenance services for passenger vehicles primarily. For this use, interior modifications are required, specifically car lifts, as well as some interior storage components. There's no exterior modifications being proposed to the site. Automotive repair facilities are a conditionally permitted use in the Talega Business Park per the specific plan document. The site is conforming to parking. A automotive repair facility of this size would require 13 parking spaces, and 13 are provided. However, there are some additional landscaping requirements that are necessary for automotive services, specifically hedging or shrubs that are 3 feet tall that are meant to block the service areas in the parking lot. There is some of this type of landscaping on site, but not enough that staff would approve it. Additional would be required. However, the site is conforming to landscaping in terms of a business park office use. Some of the concerns with automotive repair uses are typically associated with noise from air-powered tools such as air ratchets and lifts. There's generally odor concerns, being the petroleum-based products that are used, as well as traffic and parking impacts, typically due to tow truck traffic dropping off cars in need of repair, as well as parking impacts that are things like long-term parking of vehicles under repair or waiting for repair. A major issue with this project is its compliance with the general plan. Staff has not determined that this project complies with the general plan. Specifically, the land use element sections dealing with the automobile-related land uses goal. The goal is really to encourage the relocation of automobile-related uses to industrial designated lands and business parks, specifically to not detract from the aesthetics, character, and function of the surrounding area. Staff has determined that based on the character of the commercial center being general office uses, an automotive repair shop does not really comply with this goal. The aesthetics of a repair shop are typically a bit more industrial than the lighter functions of general office, and this is seen in the additional requirements for screening materials and things that are typically required for automotive repair facilities. The character of the area is a much quieter use. General offices, sales offices, engineering offices depend on a certain amount of peace and quiet to operate successfully, and automotive repair shops are typically not associated with that same amount of solitude. And then additionally, the function of the surrounding area. There are, as noted, impacts dealing with traffic, noise, and it's incongruous with the lighter office uses that are there. Additionally, there's another policy in the land use element, number 8.02, that specifically is geared towards encouraging automotive uses more in the Rancho San Clemente Business Park area rather than the Telegas specific plan area, the business park of that area. There has been a decent amount of public input on this project. There has been some concerns from adjacent business park owners regarding the impact to their business of an automotive repair shop. Part of the way that this development is laid out is that this building shares a common wall. There might be an air gap. It's kind of hard to see how it's actually constructed, but there's basically two buildings that have a zero lot line butting up to one another. And so some of the businesses on the other side are literally within inches of this business. The Business Park Association is also concerned, and this came up rather early on in staff's review. There's no requirement for the association to approve a discretionary application. However, noting the kind of area that this was, staff recommended that the applicant contact the association and just verify that they were going to be okay with it. And part of this was in anticipation of the fact that though no association approval is needed for discretionary approvals, they're not going to be able to pull a building permit to do anything without association approval. Well, they talked to the association and found out that the CC&Rs do not provide for automotive uses in this particular business park area. And in subsequent conversations, the Business Park Association had informed me that the applicant has applied twice for a variance from those rules and has been denied to establish this use. And then finally, there recently have been residential concerns from the houses that are across the street from Pico. There is a direct line of sight from the building to the residences based on the kind of the lay of the land. It's a little difficult for staff to anticipate what that impact is, but in speaking with some of the residents, they've mentioned that some of the other uses there they have heard and they have smelled in the past. So I believe that you've been forwarded some of the letters regarding those issues. In terms of the findings for the CUP, the staff does not support this project because it does not comply with the San Clemente General Plan as noted. The proposed use will be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, specifically the success of the surrounding businesses. And the proposed use is anticipated to negatively impact surrounding uses, again, getting to the impact of a higher industrial use next to much less intense office uses. At this point, staff recommends the Planning Commission deny application for the conditional use permit 14500 driven auto repair. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available for any questions, and the applicant is available as well.
I believe Wayne has a question for you.
How does our specific plan differ from the association plan? I mean, how can that happen? Shouldn't our specific plan be in concert with the association plan and requirements?
It doesn't have to be. The specific plan designates an entire area as business park and says that we will conditionally permit this type of use within the business park, but then there's subsections of that business park that can collectively decide on their own whether they want this type of use or not.
Yeah, it would seem to me our specific plans should be in concert with association plans. You say I see there are residences. If we could have that slide up again across the Pico from there. Are there lines of sight that people in the backyards could actually see what's going on at that location?
Yes, there are,
There are.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Don, and then Michael, then Bonnie.
Yeah, Adam, great report. I'm curious, so they've been denied twice a permit by the sub-association for a request for a variance, I guess it was, for approval before coming to the city? Or is
Yes.
there- And so
They came to the city first. We requested that they simply do the due diligence of discovering if the association's okay with it, and found out after they had applied for this permit that the association was not in favor of it.
Okay, so, and they're aware of the fact that even if, we were to approve this tonight, the CCNR, they can't get a building permit without the CCNR or the local sub-association approval, is that correct?
Well, that's one aspect of it, and then the other aspect is that they're not in compliance with their CCNRs, and
Right.
that would open them up to
Correct.
private issues.
Okay, thank you, because I think you made a very, very good point about the general plan, the specific plans, and this, and so
I do want to just clarify that the association's CCNRs the city is not obligated to enforce those, and that is not a reason for us finding that this application should be denied. This is about the uses that are currently
Correct.
adjacent to it. The associations is anecdotal to this.
correct, that's a
Issue.
good point.
Okay, Michael?
Adam, is there any business similar to this in the business park at this time?
In this business park, the automotive uses are, there's an automotive sales business over off of Puerto del Sol, which is not in this area, and then there's an enterprise rent-a-car. In terms of this location on Calle Avanzado, there are some light industrial uses, but nothing that would be classified as heavy industrial.
Okay, thank you.
Bonnie?
Oh, I just wanted to say that in this case, the general plan is consistent with the CCNRs, and that's a good thing. Not always are CCNRs consistent with specific plan, although the specific plan should be the operational zoning code for that particular geographic area as implemented through the general plan. So I think we're fine with that, and glad that we are actually in agreement, and I'm in agreement with your findings as well.
Jim?
Yeah, two questions. One is, I just want to make sure I'm very clear on this. The CCNRs explicitly prohibit automotive-related uses like this?
Yes,
Is that
it's listed
kind of a
under
black and white
prohibited
sort of thing?
uses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does the applicant have does he have anything he wants to say, he or she wants to say regarding how his or her use might affect other businesses around there?
I believe that he wants to give a presentation, and I'll let him answer that. But as far as we
Oh, I'm sorry, he's
discussed
still
it-
going to come up and give a presentation?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought, okay,
We're still in
no problem.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, then if the applicant would please step forward and make his presentation at this time.
Be patient with me. This is the first time I've actually done some public speaking. My name is John Jensen. I would first like to thank everybody for taking the time to consider a conditional use permit. My father and I recently acquired this building, 1385 Calle Avanzado, with the intent of opening a professional European automotive service center. We were unaware of the restricted use of automotive service within the Avanzado Technology Park at the time of the sale. We had not received the CCNRs, however, we were reassured by the sellers as well as the realtor that our usage would not be an issue. I understand that each and every concern regarding the impact of an automotive business and how they directly affect other businesses as well as residents in the community. I'm driven to obtain a professional business that does not negatively impact surrounding homes or businesses, but rather have a positive impact on the community and stay involved. We're a family business and pride ourselves on professionalism. In short, the short amount of time I've been at this location, I have gained respect and and support of my direct neighbor, less than 50 feet from our building. I'm sorry I don't have enough copies, but if you'd like to pass that around. 1387 actually is the other side of the parking lot, so I don't know if there's any, there should be 2 pictures in there that would show that. He's one of the few people I've been able to talk to. I have gained his support. I feel like my impact would affect him the most. Now addressing the concerns about negatively impacting the area with noise, unpleasant aesthetics, and heavy traffic. I personally have taken an interest in researching low decibel air tools as well as an air compressor that does not exceed 65 decibels. Our business is mainly in diagnostics and focuses on general service, which is less involved and has minimal noise impact as, say, compared to a transmission shop, body shop, truck shop, tire shop, etc. Other than vehicles being moved into and out of the shop for service, we will have the bay door closed to keep noise to a minimum as well as limiting direct sight into our shop. All vehicles are only insured under our LLC by being inside the building. So as far as storage or as far as vehicles being in disrepair, none of them will be outside. The association guidelines state no overnight parking, no storage of vehicles, trailers, or other equipment which we would be complying with. I believe our building and business type will be compatible within the community. It has been stated that the Avanzado Technology Park is strictly for professional office use. I have several pictures that are being passed around of businesses within the association showing industrial use. These buildings were purpose-built for warehousing and industrial use and do not have adequate parking for strictly office use. There are many within the community, for everything from ranging from storage pallets, crates, containers, and trailers are present and demonstrated in the pictures. Some of the businesses that are very industrial are like Gerard Systems at 1361 Calle, Avanzado, who manufactures large awnings. Jarvis Restoration, there's a landscaping company and a lighting company. Being one of the first buildings in the track in the association, our impact of traffic would not be a concern as the traffic is going away from the other businesses. Our location is in fact zoned for automotive service under conditional use. We will follow all rules and regulations complying with city, state, and Talega Business Park. Subject to approval, I'm willing to limit business hours, construct a wall, add landscaping, and restrict use of air tools if needed be. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Did you have a question?
Just a quick question. How many cars do you think you can park inside? 3?
Well,
You got end to end, because you got 40 feet deep.
it'd be 7 lifts,
7 lifts?
So you would be able to, that's the capability, that's not what we're gonna have in there. You'd be able to fit, to be safe, 15 vehicles inside. 2 of which would be, one is a personal vehicle, and then the other one would be a truck, so. I can't imagine that we'd have, I'd love to have the success of having it completely full, but I don't ever see us having an overflow to where anything would be in the parking lot.
Thank you.
Bonnie?
I just wanted to verify, did you say that you were striving to keep the decibel levels at 65?
Below 65, yes.
Below 65, as in what?
So the air compressor, air tools, from 10 feet away, it'd be 65 decibels.
10 feet would be 65 decibels?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Jensen?
Yeah, I guess
John?
during your process of buying the building, you were not afforded the CCNRs as far as a part of the closing package
Correct.
at all?
We received the Talega Business Park CCNRs, but not the sub-association of Avanzado Technology Park itself. We have also not been aware of any meetings, so I've been trying to make my way around and meet people face to face, let them know who I am, what I'm doing, and what my intent is. My intent is never to negatively impact the community as a resident of San Clemente myself.
And so did you go down to negotiate to the city planners and check for the compatibility there at all from
Yeah, I've been
at the
in touch
building
with
department?
them via email.
Before buying the building, did you go down there and And check with the
No.
planners at all and for that portion of due diligence at all?
No, unfortunately, I had not. I guess I just,
Excuse you, just a minute.
I personally had not. Like I said, I mean, I think it was an oversight, but I was reassured by the realtor that it was not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jensen. Okay, at this point, we'll open the public hearing and invite anybody who wishes to speak to come forward. If you haven't already, if you fill out a card, you can go ahead and speak, but just afterwards, if you wouldn't mind going around to the back of the room. Oh, there we go. Just fill that out, just so our recording secretary has your name for the record.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tina Rector. I am an owner of one of the buildings in the association, and I'm also,
That's okay.
and I'm also president of the association. I do have a copy of the CCNRs in here where it does specifically prohibit this kind of business, as well as a letter from I believe it's the same owners that he was talking about that said that approved what he was doing, and he is not approving. I've got that letter that I just printed out today. One of the negative things, and there's a lot of negative on this, but the building is situated, it's a cul-de-sac, and you drive into the cul-de-sac to the other 7 buildings. There's a couple of them on the side. He's right on the side, and anybody approaching the buildings would see this automotive repair. I've never seen one that is neat and clean, so it would impact the whole, the whole site. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Did you want to see a copy of the CCNRs that say that specifically? I mean, I have it.
I think we're,
Oh, that's the same thing. That's the same thing. Uh-huh. Now, he's directly adjacent to the parking lot, and he's an IT company, and he's concerned about the noise and, the drilling, the smell of the oil and all that kind of stuff. It's really bad. I mean, it can be bad.
okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Is there anyone else? Please come forward.
Thank you. I'm Tony Spriggs. I also own one of the buildings in the park. I hope you would find, with the recommendation of staff, based on it non-conforming, I think it would materially affect the values of our properties and the quality of our enjoying it. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could fill out a card too, please. Jim, do you have another one? Okay, is there anyone else?
Sure.
Oh,
I'd just like to, note for the record that I think I received this via electronic means before the meeting. Thanks from staff, but for the rest of the commission to cite if they'll.
okay, so seeing no one else stepping forward, I'll close the public hearing and invite discussion. I'm sorry, Bonnie?
All right, the applicant had sent around the first letter from the neighbor to the east, and I verified this by asking the applicant about the decibel level, which he said he would keep below 65 or try to within 10 feet. And I believe in the letter that was sent around for us to look at, his neighbor said one of the conditions was that it had to be 50 decibels limited to. And that didn't seem to be consistent with what the applicant said that he would try to do. And so due to the health issues and the noise issues and the view issues on site that I experienced when I visited the site, I do believe it will affect the view impacts of Talega from across the street, across Pico. And we have these CCNRs and we have these association agreements in general plan for a reason. And it's unfortunate that some of the lessons have to be learned in a hard way. I had to myself in buying real estate. And it's really important to go over the documents ahead of time before purchasing a property. And I'm so sorry that this happened, but I am in support of the staff's recommendation to deny this project.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate you didn't get the information that you needed to get. That is, unfortunately, that's kind of outside of our purview. That's kind of a civil issue between you and the people that you purchased from. I know that it's not our job, it's not our sphere to enforce anyone's CC&Rs. That's essentially a civil contract. And I think that staff's report is more than sufficient to indicate that, to me anyway, that there's 2, even 3 findings that can't be made. I also have a sense, though, kind of in addition to that, that if we know in this very clear way, this kind of black and white way, that this is not allowed by the CC&Rs, and that's known by the city, then not as kind of a subjective thing, or maybe it will or maybe it won't, but a very clear, this is simply not an allowed use, then it seems to me that allowing providing a conditional use permit for that use would negatively impact surrounding land uses, because those surrounding land uses expect those CC&Rs to be in place. They expect to be supported by it. The neighborhood is defining what an appropriate and a positive land use is. So it's not a matter of enforcing anyone's CC&Rs. It's a matter of saying, well, we know that the neighborhood, that the community already sees this as not a supporting use, that the businesses there, businesses and residences moved in with a certain understanding, and providing a use contrary to that understanding is going to probably negatively impact those surrounding land uses. So to me, that's even an additional reason why it wouldn't behoove us to approve a permit in this area. So for those reasons, I'm in line with staff's recommendation to deny the permit.
Don?
Yeah, I'm going to follow on with Commissioner Rulin's comments. The general plan is kind of reigns overall here, and we have a not consistent finding on automobile-related uses goal, and the vehicle sales and services land use 8.02. So we have some pretty clear guidance from our general plan for this area. And so the specific plan's a little out of sequence, but we know we have to deal with all those. That we updated the general plan; those should all be in work to get more harmonious. So I'm going to support staff's recommendation to not support the conditional use permit. It's unfortunate that the individual who bought the property didn't quite get the straight word or the proper advice from the real estate agent or get total due diligence, but I think we have to stand by our general plan. And I do agree with you that the CC&Rs, although they're not enforceable by us, is an expectation of the local area that how they've decided to regulate themselves, that we should at least honor, and the staff, I think, picked up on that and encouraged the applicant to, in fact, apply to that association, which they got a negative answer. So I'm going to support staff's report.
Mark?
Well, I will agree with pretty much everything that's been said so far, and I appreciate the tough situation the applicant's in. I think you have some other recourses probably in the purchase of the property, which you probably don't want to get involved in, but they're there, and I wouldn't base my decision on the CC&Rs as far as the discretionary approval goes. Building department does enforce them, the requirement to obtain that before you can get a building permit. But just the head count that the adjacent neighborhoods expected that when they purchased, I think is enough for me to know the public sentiment for it. And I cannot make 2 of the findings, C and D, so I would agree with staff's recommendation.
Michael?
The fact that this project would need a conditional use permit brings up the point, is it really applicable to the site? Is it a good fit? Whether or not it's in the CC&Rs and et cetera, is it advantageous to anything that we would be supportive to go outside of the normal and want to approve a conditional use? In this case, I see no reason at all to do that. And so I would support a denial of this project.
Mr., oh, wait, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's
Bonnie,
okay.
would you mind moving it a little forward? Thank you.
You know, I bought a number of properties out of San Clemente over the years, over many years. I've always been very leery of real estate brokers who tell me that it's all okay to do certain uses. And I always have to double and triple check. It's buyer beware, unfortunately. And I really sympathize with you and have a lot of empathy for you there for the purchase. But I'm not going to be able to support it for a number of reasons, which would be number B and C of the staff report of the resolution here. I would be very hesitant to support something like this where there is a visual line of sight from a residential property across the street. And so I would not be in favor of approving this project.
Did you need? Oh, okay. Mr. Jensen, like my colleagues, I feel very badly for you that you're in this position, and my impression of you is that you're very sincere. You'd run a very professional shop. You've taken great care to try to address as many of the concerns as possible. And I think you'd be an asset to the Rancho San Clemente Business Park where this use would be permitted. Unfortunately, like my colleagues, I can't meet the findings, and you know, my primary concern is compatibility, both with the local businesses, but also with the residential being so close. We have over the years had a number of issues with some of the auto-related uses in the Los Molinos area and the homes up the hill. And, you know, it's just, try as some of those businesses might, it is very difficult for them not to cause conflict with those residents. So I think it would probably be equally difficult for you. So I'm in agreement with my colleagues that I'm in support of the staff's recommendation to deny the project.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, I will deliver the bad news. I'll move that we adopt resolution number PC 15-020, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Clemente, California, denying conditional use permit 14-500, driven auto repair, allowing the establishment of an automotive service use in an existing industrial building located in the business park of the Talega Specific Plan, located at 1385 Calle Avanzado.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. The denial passes, I suppose I should say. Okay, that brings us to item 8E, conditional use permit 15-024, minor cultural heritage permit 15-025, Hamilton's Restaurant. Welcome, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Chair Darden. Good evening, Commissioners. Give me one moment while I pull up the presentation here. So this is a request for a new restaurant use located at 201 Avenida Del Mar. It's the site of the previous shore restaurant use. It's at the corner of Ola Vista and Del Mar, as you can see on the slide above, and does abut a historic property towards the rear off Avenida Granada. The previous shore restaurant use was approved for 103 seats and 16 outdoor seats, and this application does request to continue those approved seats. As you can see in the slide above, a facade remodel is incorporated with the request. The facade remodel would change the building, move it towards a Spanish colonial revival architectural style. The hours of operation are from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday, with the only exception being New Year's Eve. They wanted to operate until 2 a.m. A conditional use permit is required for the service of full alcohol during the business hours, and the CUP is also required for live entertainment for the hours that are proposed from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. The applicant indicates that the live entertainment will be primarily acoustic music and the occasional amplified music. As you can see on the slide above, there's a number of Spanish Colonial Revival architectural elements that are being proposed to the front facade and the rear entry. That include smooth white stucco, canvas awnings, wrought iron lighting, a wood trellis that's stained dark brown, solid wrought iron railing, Spanish tile, and aluminum windows and doors that are clad with wood that are deeply recessed. And you can see there's a parapet roof that is proposed to screen the mechanical equipment from view. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit for the following reasons. The alcohol service will remain an ancillary use and end by 11 p.m. And that is weekdays and midnight weekends. And many restaurants in the downtown, for comparison purposes, they operate later until midnight or 2 a.m. The hours
Cliff,
of... Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask a question about that point.
Sure.
Is the starting time of service at 8 a.m., is that also similar to other restaurants in the downtown?
The most similar use, I think, would be the wine restaurant.
The Cellar?
The Cellar, yes. But I think they're actually at 10. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Is that unusual in other areas of town? I know we had an application before us a few weeks ago that was at 8 a.m., and that seemed unusually early to some of us at the time, so I was just curious if that's common.
It's common for a restaurant use. They want to have like mimosas served for breakfast type of use, so it is common.
It is common,
It's,
okay.
common for a restaurant that serves a breakfast.
Yeah.
The pier has mimosas and alcoholic drinks and the morning
that hour.
service. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then the hours of live entertainment to 10 p.m. are not anticipated to create negative impacts. There's many restaurants with live entertainment that end at 12 a.m. in the downtown. Staff did consult with the Sheriff's Department, ABC, and Code Enforcement, and they do not have any concerns with the request. As included as conditions of approval are our best management practices for alcohol use and live entertainment. The alcohol conditions are 8 through 10 within your staff report, and the live entertainment conditions are 17 through 29 within your staff report. Staff is also recommending approval of the cultural heritage permit as the project meets city design guidelines and the architectural overlay requirements to incorporate Spanish Colonial Revival design elements. The design was reviewed and supported by the design review subcommittee. And staff does not anticipate any negative impacts to the historic resource or any nearby historic structures, and that the building's not being enlarged and the Spanish Colonial Revival architecture complies with design guidelines and complements the architecture of our historic buildings downtown.
I believe Commissioner Eccleston has a question for you.
How did you determine that the previous Shore Restaurant discontinued their use on February the 28th, 2014?
We researched staff records with business licensing.
How would a business license determine when they moved out?
It's the most reliable records that we have as to when a business actually terminates is through our business licensing.
Well, would the business license tell us that it terminated at that date?
I can't conclusively say yes or no to that.
Yeah, okay, so, but as far as you know, did they move out on February the 28th, 2014 physically?
I can't say yes or no to that.
Okay. Okay. So was their business license through February the 28th, 2014?
Yes, that's when it was closed. The business license was closed, meaning that we assumed the business terminated. I can't say whether or not they closed doors on that day or not.
Okay. Okay, maybe I can rephrase my question then. business licenses are for 1 year, are they not?
Yes.
Okay, so the business license that you saw terminated on, or expired on February the 28th, 2014?
Yes, that's when it was closed out. That business license was closed out on that date. But I can't conclusively say if it expired or if that's when the restaurant terminated.
Yeah, can you explain what you mean by closed out? Did the business license expire, like Wayne is getting to, after a year?
Right.
Did it just terminate because of the end of the business license, or did they actually come in and discontinue it?
I don't have that information, unfortunately.
My recollection is that the Shore moved out substantially sooner than that, and that's why I'm asking that question. Okay, I'll get back to that later here. The requirement is when they have music, either amplified or acoustical, that the doors and windows are closed. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is included as a condition of approval.
Okay. And
Condition number 18.
okay, and the windows are double glazed. Is that correct?
That's correct. I did confirm with the architect that they are required to be double glazed per building code requirements.
And how effective is that? I wonder. Maybe one of the architects can answer that. How effective is that with regard to sound penetration?
It all depends on the surface area of the glass. So there's not a quantitative number unless it's done by an acoustical engineer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, thank you.
Bonnie, did you also have a question?
I do. I have some questions. We talk here about shared parking only, but aside from that, I didn't find what are the required number of parking spaces for this project without shared parking?
It's based upon the seat count, so it'd be
What's 103 seat count?
103 divided by
And
5.
Plus the 16 outdoor seatings, I believe. Does that figure into the formula?
No, those
Okay.
are not.
So it's 103 over 5,
Mhm.
and what'd you get?
21 space.
I'm sorry?
20 in a smart car.
Okay, 21. Okay. And so they're proposing to have shared spaces? In what way?
Well, they're proposing to continue the restaurant use in that location. And the folks that utilize that parking lot include the offices there and the restaurant. They share that on-site parking.
So, do you have an explanation why the lot behind there is full with double parking now, even though restaurant has been closed since, what did you say, February 8th, 2000?
Now, perhaps the property owner could, or the applicant might have some additional information.
Okay.
I don't have a count with me.
Okay, so that was the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done, or do you have is this your last slide? Or
Oh,
did you
yes,
have a bit more? Okay, I
that's
just wanted to make sure, because I hadn't seen it, so I didn't know if we'd let you finish. So, are there other questions of staff, Michael?
Cliff, is there any requirement for the owner when they take over this building to make it a restaurant? Is there a requirement that the outside has to be remodeled?
No.
So they've decided to do that on their own?
Yes.
And therefore, they trigger the historical overlay requirement for the design?
That's correct. Any exterior improvements, they do need to bring the building more in line with the Spanish colonial revival architecture.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, and I think I see your applicant in the audience. He wish to step forward to speak?
My name's Eric DiMatteo, and I'm a partner and a co-operator. Thank you folks for hearing us out. Basically, I think what we're trying to bring to the community, we have partners who are definitely involved in the community. We want to bring a family environment We bring kind of a background. Most of our partners are, like I said, from here. We do have a background in the business. We pride ourselves on being a mom and pa that definitely tries to be involved with the community as much as possible in regards to, you know, music and things along those lines. We're kind of taking a model that's worked for us up in Shell Beach called Shell Beach Brew House and trying to transplant a lot of it because it's something that's definitely been embraced by our community. Along those lines, though, in regards to concerns for music, it's nice to have that option. That being said, we have that same option and have not exercised that. If we were ever to do something along those lines, we'd be looking more along the lines of maybe a brunch type situation with someone playing an acoustic guitar in a little corner doing something along the lines of Eagle cover music, easy listening. We're not looking to do anything, bring the house down. I mean, we're really focused on the family aspect of things. In regards to, I'd want to know that my parents would come in and they'd feel very comfortable being there. They come and support the location in which I operate up there as well on a frequent basis. And I can't stress enough how much we really just want people to understand that we're really just trying to tie in as much as possible. So, I mean, in regards to parking as well, an issue I heard that was brought up, there are other businesses there, other restaurants. In regards to it is up to management and how they talk to their staff and ask that they not park in those lots. Those are meant for our guests. And that's one thing that I think we really do pride ourselves on and have a track record. And Shell Beach that has limited parking, if not even more so than there, is those aren't meant for our staff. So if there's those double parking situations, I do think there may be staff members or certain people that probably shouldn't be parking there. Not to point any fingers, but from what we've heard. And that's something that we would definitely make a point of addressing so it wouldn't affect the surrounding neighbors. I mean, we want them to be stoked on what we've got going on, and we want positive mojo, so.
And you shared with us at Design Review the meaning of the name. Would you share that with us now? Because I think the public might find it interesting.
Oh, and the meaning of the name, just in regards to Hamilton's, one of the founders, a lot of our partners here are born and raised in families, and basically they were trying to think of something that would really kind of intertwine and strike a chord with the community in regards to bringing kind of a historic aspect. When we go into a location, we really want to revitalize an area and show the people. I mean, that's why, to address what Michael had mentioned, we really wanted to do the outside and show people we do care. From our business plan that we're trying to carry over here, we've found real quickly, if we're honest, we're transparent, and we try to show we care, people support you. So wanted to bring up a little bit of history. That's where the name did come from. But that being said, we wanted to make sure that it was also something that was homegrown and people, the locals, could relate to.
Thank you. Wayne?
Is the parking lot behind you is part of the restaurant?
Well, I'm not versed on that, to be honest with you. I know it was open before. We do have our architect here who may be able to shine a little bit more. I'm not too versed on that. I'm more on the operation and, kind of what we're trying to bring to the table in regards to revitalizing, the building, a family atmosphere.
So you're going to be serving breakfast also, is that correct?
There's something, I mean, along with hours, it's still stuff we're working out. What we do at our location up north is we're about 11:30 to, I'd say, Monday, Tuesday, 9 o'clock. We're just trying to leave the door open because we're still trying to get feedback from the locals here as well as from our, partners to what we think would be the best fit. We don't want to go extreme late night. We don't want to handcuff ourselves, but we're not looking to go. I mean, we close on, I think on the slide here it said Saturday, on the weekend, midnight. Sunday, we'd be done a lot earlier than that. Realistically, probably 9:30. I mean, that's when the flow mellows out, and we don't want to be a noise. We don't want people calling in who are upset with us. That's not what we're trying to send out in the community. Really just trying to keep it small ball, probably 11:30 to, I'd say, 9 o'clock on Sunday and Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, probably go till 10 o'clock, and obviously Friday, Saturday, probably go till midnight. But we're not trying to, bring in, there's liability after midnight as well. And most of our money is made, and what we're looking to do is with the families during the day. And if you stay open late, you run into problems, and it hinders your perception in regards to getting families feeling comfortable. And we want 10 high chairs in the place, and most of them being full more times than not. We've been successful before, and that's what we're hoping to do here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Bonnie?
So you don't know if you own the parking lot that's at the rear of the restaurant?
I met landlord. Yeah, he's the architect. This is Joel.
Joel Snyder, architect for the project. Yeah, the parking in the rear of the building is the parking that's dedicated for that use.
Yeah, if you take a look at the location map, you can actually see the boundaries of the property. They're outlined in green.
So,
Yes.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
So you're leasing not only the building, but the parking lot behind, is that correct? In your lease agreement?
I believe that is correct, yes.
That's
yes.
important to understand,
Yeah.
because that parking is really dedicated then
Yeah,
for
correct.
you.
So the previous restaurant and the restaurant use, the parking is associated with that restaurant, so that had yes, so I'm going a long way saying yes, we are leasing the parking along with the restaurant itself.
Okay.
I think, is this one of your partners who might be able to enlighten us on that issue?
Sorry.
You signed the lease, huh?
Yes. So my name is Devin Mears. I'm a resident here in San Clemente. I'm one of the partners on the project. The answer to your question is the building owner owns the parking lot as well. So the answer is absolutely yes. The parking lot is part of what we are paying for in our monthly lease payment. That
So
is
you can
correct.
restrict who parks back there?
That's correct. And
Because
the
right
answer-
now, as Vonnie said, it's full.
And to answer the question, the better way to answer that question is the reason why it's full is because nobody's enforcing the parking lot right now because there's no business in the restaurant. So the actual building owner who we're leasing from isn't really enforcing the parking in that parking lot. Just the other day, he contacted me to let me know that they were going to tow somebody out of that parking lot. But in general, I think that it's just not something that they've been paying attention to, the actual building owner. So, but that parking lot is absolutely dedicated to our business for sure. But the reason why it's full now is because nobody's listening to nobody's complying with the signage. Basically, that's what it comes down to.
And you intend to have your staff not park in that parking lot, but park up
Yeah,
some other
yeah.
place?
As Eric was saying, for sure, the staff will not park in the parking lot because we want those spaces to be available for the patrons. That's 100%.
And how will the restaurant patrons know that they can park back there?
Well, the sign will say that the parking, the signage in the parking lot basically says that the parking is dedicated for those businesses then in that space in particular.
Right, but
So-
someone who comes to your restaurant, maybe most likely would not know that they can park back there. And unless it's on your menu somehow or some other indication on your website that there is parking in the rear.
Yeah, what I would say is it's kind of typical, I guess, of any parking lot when there's a sign up that says that the parking lot's restricted to patrons of the businesses itself. That's how they would know.
Yeah, but they wouldn't know that ahead of time. If they're coming perhaps from out
True,
of town,
true.
they would not know that you
So
had
what
dedicated parking.
Yeah, my guess there would be if we found out that there are people, for instance, parking back there that weren't using the businesses, we would do something where we would put a warning notice on their car.
I think Commissioner Eggleston is actually talking about the reverse issue.
Okay.
Frequently, what we do is we ask that you take measures to make sure that people who are coming to your business know that they can avail themselves of that parking as opposed to parking on Del Mar.
Got
So
it,
freeing
got
parking
it.
up for other people.
Got it,
So,
right.
we might ask for a condition of approval that would suggest that you, or insist that you include it on your website, put it on the menu,
Sure,
have
sure.
a card out front, that sort of thing.
And we would obviously have no problem with that. We want our patrons to.
people do it.
Yeah, we want the parking lot to be used by our patrons, so that would be fine. Somebody was asking about breakfast earlier as well, just to clarify on that. We want whether or not we're going to serve breakfast is something that we're still debating, as Eric was saying. We have the kitchen space to be able to do it effectively, and we like the idea of having a breakfast downtown since there's not a lot of options downtown for breakfast.
No, there aren't.
So that's the reason why the 8 a.m. start time would be for people to come in on breakfast. The discussion so far has been that if we did do breakfast, we would start out just doing breakfast Thursday through Sunday, and then kind of get a feel for it and see if it's well accepted, and if it's well accepted, we might expand it to other days.
Right.
But that's the reason for the early starting time.
The reason I was asking about breakfast, because years ago, many years ago, there was a place called the Shore House.
Yeah,
there.
sure.
And in fact, they did serve breakfast, and it was a terrific breakfast.
Yes.
And it was packed.
Yes.
And there is no opportunity downtown right now, except for maybe for breakfast.
Yes.
So, breakfast may be an interesting concept.
I mean, I agree completely. So the four of the other partners are also all residents of San Clemente. I've been living in San Clemente for 9 years. I was born and raised in Mission Viejo, so I'm very familiar with San Clemente.
you know, the idea behind us deciding to want to open up a restaurant here is really because we saw a kind of a missing component downtown, and part of that is absolutely when we go downtown, when I take my wife and my child downtown, you know, we have limited options down there. We're looking to add another option whereby a family-friendly place where if you don't feel like Mexican food and maybe you don't feel like pizza and you don't feel like maybe a higher cost meal, that you'll be able to come to our place and get a meal there. That's really the theme. And I'm a little bit, you know, the public notice stated live amplified music. We've talked a lot about that here. As Eric mentioned, it's really not part of what we're doing. We have it on our application because we want the option of being able to do that from time to time. But this, what I want to make sure I reemphasize, like Eric mentioned, is that we don't want to be a club. We don't want to be a loud music place. We don't want to be any of those things. And in fact, if you look at the businesses directly around us, like Nick's, and across the street, Avila's and also Selma's, we're going to be more or less molding into that exact same structure in terms of when we're going to be open. Well, other than when we open, which, like I said, we don't see the breakfast down there, so we think there's a value to that. But certainly in terms of when we close, it's going to be based upon the crowd. And pretty much in that part of town, once 9 or 10 o'clock rolls around, it's real quiet down there. Everybody goes up to the top of the street. We don't want to be the businesses on the top of the street. We want to be more like the businesses down at the bottom of the street.
Wayne, did you have another question?
No,
Okay, Bonnie, did you want to continue then?
Yeah, that's okay. I would surely like to see more on the parking. Also in the staff report, I believe, was a mention of, I'd like to see how you would be implementing the bike parking in the rear that has been suggested for part of our complete streets and
Sure.
all of these kinds of mobility that we're trying to implement. And if there would be a way for staff maybe to see if we can squeeze, I counted 19 spaces, you need 21. If there's a way to get some more in there, because parking has been such a difficult area for us to accommodate there. And besides those things, I'd like to know more about what the shared ideas are. It says here that they think that they can produce the number of spaces required by sharing, but it doesn't say how or where.
Sure. My understanding is that the parking allotment is based upon what was previously approved based on the number of seats which we aren't changing. So we didn't want to add any additional parking requirement. So I think that's already been addressed as part of the process we've been going through in our discussions back and forth with the city.
I don't see it here, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'd like to know what that is.
That's
So
on the main. I thought that was on the main.
maybe it's here and I missed it.
Yep.
But we're,
Basically, I think it was, Cliff, would you explain the regulation regarding if the business opens within a year?
Yeah, so the intent of the ordinance is really to make sure that if a use is abandoned over a year's period of time, that use that has a non-conforming element would not be able to continue. In this case, the applicants or the owners of the property were actively trying to lease the property to a restaurant use. They did find a tenant and entered into a agreement with that tenant, and that application, as I mentioned in the staff report, was filed on January 21st of 2015 to continue that same number of seats that was previously approved for that location.
And that included the shared parking agreement that carried over from the shore and the shoreline and
Yes, yeah,
previous.
the same.
what was it? What was the shared parking agreement?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by shared parking agreement, but there's basically a old conditional use permit that established the number of seats, 103 seats, and 16 outdoor seats. And this application is really a conditional use permit for alcohol and live entertainment. They're just simply continuing the same number of seats that were approved for that restaurant location.
I
So
think
in other
Bonnie's
words-
question is about.
It's in the staff report, it's
Is
number
she-
F.
Yeah, she's on page one.
Number F, page 1, staff report.
Well, I apologize, that might have been a typo, because there is no shared parking.
There's no shared parking.
It's on the very bottom of page 1 of the report.
F.
When you have the,
F is
The
in
findings.
finagled.
On which page of the resolution?
And the-
I do
not on the
apologize, I'm not.
resolution.
No, it's on staff report, first
Page
page,
one.
first page.
It's the findings for the report.
Oh, I do apologize, that is a typo. If you look in the resolution, that is not there.
That finding isn't part of the report for conditional use permit for a building.
No, that's not required for the alcohol or the live entertainment. So I do apologize, that's a typo within the staff report. In the resolution, that condition is not there.
does that clear that up for you, Bonnie? Okay, Michael?
Yeah, Cliff, I'm sort of understanding this and then sort of not. It looks like there's 21 spots required for this, and there's 17, so it's 4 parking spaces short from the requirement. Are we also approving a variance in the parking requirement here, or?
No, not at all.
What's going on?
To be clear, they could have come in with no discretionary permit under the previous conditional use permit with 103 seats. So that's not part of the request here. Request is not for parking or the number of seats. It's pre-approved from the existing conditional use permit. Now, I don't know the details, but that old restaurant wasn't that long ago that it wouldn't have had to have complied to the regulations that currently enforced in the city. I don't know how they arrived at the 103, just based on the 19 behind the parking lot, you could have 95 seats. So, there's, with three short, what did we say, 21 or 22? 21. So two short. So maybe I don't know where they came up with the other 2 in the justification for the 103 in the first place. But we can verify. What we should do is just absolutely verify that 103, did you do that? The 103
Yes.
was, what was it?
I have the resolution of approval in my file here.
Okay. So then, just based on that, what we're reviewing tonight does not actually include the number of seats or the parking requirement. That's why there's no analysis on it. There's no waiver. It's just allowed by right.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Yeah, and I do apologize for that
clarification. I
reference
appreciate
to shared parking, because as Jim mentioned, parking is not part of this application. Thank you.
You have a resolution, I'll look through it.
Yes.
That can shed some light on it.
Wayne, you had a question while he's digging that out?
Yeah, to me, this is an important point as to when the Shore Restaurant discontinued. Because I, for one, had followed the Shore from the moment they went in to the moment that they went out for a number of reasons, which I'll get into later. But Cliff, it's so important that we just don't take a look at my suggestion is not to take just a look at the business license when the business license expired, but take a look at, in the future, when in fact the business actually vacated. Because that's really determination here as far as when they can then assume what the previous use was there and the previous conditions. So it's so important to do that, and I'm going to let that go as far as as far as my judgment is concerned. But the Shore, as far as I remember, discontinued their use substantially before February of 2014.
So the answer to the question is there was 2 waivers. That's how they got to the 103. Well, actually, I'm sorry, there were 5 waivers granted, and they're only counting 16 seats, or 16 parking spaces. I don't know why that was 25.
16.
Maybe they restriped it a lot.
Make it 88.
Wait, Mike said 17.
No, it's.
Where did,
I'm just going off.
and I counted 19 when I went there.
Yeah, and I,
It says they're required for 17 on that.
I know we're not doing about parking, but we're gonna have to find
I
out
did count
sometime.
19 as well. I don't know.
Did you get 19?
I believe it said 19 in the staff report.
This is an error.
Well, Cliff, can you step back up? Sure. Just a follow-up question to Commissioner Eggleston's remark. How is the code written about the year? Does the code say it's from the expiration of the business license, or does the code say it's from the day that the business, it vacated?
It's the termination of use. Now, we've talked with Rutan previously, our previous attorney, about this specific issue, and they have told us as long as there's not an intent to abandon the use within a year's period of time, then the use may continue on. So that's the direction that we've received in the past from Rutan.
And perhaps we could ask Mal to weigh in.
Yeah, Madam Commissioner, Chair, I should say, and Commissioners. Yeah, under standard land use law, and I haven't researched this recently, but that's correct. In terms of a CUP lasting and being grandfathered, the operative test is the intent to have the use continue. That's generally how that's looked at. Whether or not that is directly applicable here, I haven't looked into it. But in CUP case law, that's exactly the test.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer the question for you, Wayne?
Partly, yes. Partly, yes. But the date is still, and I'm not going to make an issue of it, because I certainly want to see a new restaurant go in there, to say the least.
You just want your breakfast.
I want my breakfast. But in the future, I think we really need to be very careful as to when the previous use actually vacated. And I think it's really from the time that it actually vacated instead of any other determination.
John?
Well, I think I'd like to pull on the Assistant City Attorney's string a little bit here. It's intent to change, or as long as there's an intent to continue, I guess, is what the case law states now. Is that right, Mal?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioners, when it comes to the question of the continuing existence of a CUP, that's the test. Now, whether or not the language of the zoning code is more or less specific, whether or not the language is so specific that it would potentially go contrary to that, I just don't know, having not looked into it. But generally speaking, if there's intent to continue, then a CUP would continue for that additional
So
year.
the intent to continue then would possibly be predicated on the owner continuing to try to release the facility as a restaurant in itself.
That
good?
is certainly what it sounds like the prior interpretation was, and that would be in line with with general case law.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, yes, Michael? Oh, you just,
I did count them, they're 19, there's not 17, so the cover sheet's got an error in there. But there's also some parking perpendicular to Avenida Granada. Does that go along with this, or is that somebody else's park? That's neighbors' parking? Okay, so we're confirmed then that we have 19 when we're technically supposed to have 20.
we got 90.
Okay.
But we're not, the parking is not part of this permit.
Correct.
It's not about.
cultural heritage.
It's not a
And
finding that we're
if you
committing,
wanted to
so.
just, add a little complexity to the mix.
It's a cultural
even if the
heritage
use
permit
was
and it's a
expired, I'm not
business
sure if
permit.
the waivers would go away. We'd have to check that, because I don't have any experience on that. But there were 5 waivers granted for this property.
That's a lot.
Okay.
Those were the old days.
But
Yeah.
but the good news is we have more parking than they said they had back then. So there's 3 more spaces. They said 16, and there's 19 now.
And I think, Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I recall in the plans, I think they're behind me, but I think there is provisions in the parking lot for bicycle parking there by the front door, isn't there, on the plans? So we did get some, in addition to the complete streets requirement in the back of the property that I think one of the commissioners here asked about. So I wanted to put that on the record.
I think that was Commissioner Rulin's request. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I think this would be a good time to open the public hearing. And I have one card, but it doesn't have a name on it. I'm guessing it's Mr. Van Slyke.
Commissioners, I'm Lee Van Slyke. This is the view from my living room window. We have been making our primary residence at 209 Avenida Granada, which is the only historical property affected by this application since last September. So basically, this ill-used parking lot is what we've been looking at. And no, we don't get any breakfast from the restaurant. So we're really looking forward to seeing a good restaurant go in. We have no objections to any of this. Our concern is, of course, about the staff parking. And currently, as I think most of you have dined a few times at Nick's, and one of the things that's great about Nick's is there's incredible service. Well, guess why? They have so many cars that come and park and put on their cute little black outfits as they get out of the car all along Granada. And they don't park in this parking lot, they park on Granada. So it's really, that's where our problem is in parking in front of our house, is from Nick's. Now, I'm sure they'll have perfectly competent staff for the new restaurant, and they'll be fighting over parking too. I talked to Bill Hales, one of the owners, last night, and he was quite clear that if there's a parking lot by the senior center or whatever, they will really work to get their employees to park up there, and maybe we can even ask Nick's to be a little more diligent about it, asking its employees to make room for customers here on Granada. Yeah, I mean, we hope that the little bitty sign saying this is only for these buildings that are owned by this one owner is a little clearer, and that the planting gets done better and so on. We think this can look a lot better than it looks today, but we don't have any problem with this restaurant going in and using parking. We just hope they'll be good neighbors, and we're looking forward to having a family place on the corner there.
Okay, thank you. And Dina, would you like to speak as well?
Hi, Commissioners, and nice to see you all again. I'm Dina Van Slyke. I'm married to Lee, and yes, we have now moved to 209 Avenida Granada, and we love it there. But being married to Lee, I always have to have the last word, right? So I just thought I would throw in something, because as you were talking, I had a question in my mind, and I'm very happy that they're coming, and I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful place. My understanding was that parking in the back is not just for this restaurant. It's for all the tenants of that building, which includes a large real estate office, the post office, and all the second-story offices, of which there are, I don't know how many, a bunch. So I just wanted to see if I understood that right, because I think that their back parking lot is for all of these tenants, not just them. Parking is a big problem. The yoga studio next door, a lot of people park there to go into the yoga studio, because the yoga studio only has 4 parking spaces, which probably isn't enough for them either. And the hard thing for us is people do park in front of our driveway. That's the only big pain in the butt. You've got to call somebody to have that handled. Sometimes, because we have 3 cars and we have a tandem drive, we have 1 driveway, we park our cars tandemly, So when Lee if he wants to get out, I have to move my car first. So I have to move my T-Bird, and then he can move his car. So while my T-Bird's moved, I have to sometimes find a place to put it while he gets in and out. It's interesting living with 1 parking space and 3 cars. 1's in the garage. So just wanted to add that. I thought the termination of use point was really interesting that Ray Nicholson brought up, and I think that's an interesting point, because they were gone. I don't know what the rules are. Maybe it doesn't matter really, but I just like to see them have enough parking, and I know that employees are going to they're not going to want to walk 3 blocks to the next parking lot either. Okay.
Could I say one more thing? Somebody asked about, is it being enforced right now, and it's not. I mean, we use that parking lot all the time when we're trading cars around and stuff like that.
It says, we know
the current owner is clearly not policing the parking in that, and that's why it's always full. So it'll be just fine. A lot of people are going to have to find some other place to park. But
Yeah,
we're okay
everybody
with that.
knows Shore House is there, they can park there.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address this issue? Okay, see, now I'm going to close the public hearing, and Cliff, would you step back up again? I realize that the parking is not an issue that we're reviewing tonight. However, there does seem to be a lot of confusion as to whether the way the parking is being distributed among the businesses who rent that building is in keeping with the agreement that the Shore entered into. It does say in our staff report that those 19 spaces are shared by the 3 businesses. So does that mean that there's been a change since the Shore received their CUP? Or was that the case when the Shore received their CUP?
Well, yeah, if you take a look at the geographic boundaries of the property, and I apologize, it's very, very small. Let me see if I can go to the slideshow. Yeah, the reason why I wanted to show this here, even though it's quite small, is you can see the property line boundaries here. So the green comes up here, here. This is the Shore restaurant location, and this is the real estate office and the post office that utilize that 19 parking space parking lot. So those are the folks that have the right to utilize that parking lot, if that answers your question.
And has that changed since the CUP was granted the Shore?
No.
Okay. I think that's the question that we have, is it not? Okay. All right. I think that resolves that issue. Are there any other questions for staff, or shall we move into discussion?
Well,
Also, just it'd be important to note, the original approval for the time for the restaurant was 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
And Wayne was there at 6:02?
for Machaca burrito.
All right. Go ahead, Doc.
I had a question for staff, if I could. We have evolved over time with a condition of approval that was earlier mentioned by Commissioner Barnes and Eagleston about, you know, the applicant, I think we did it for Rocco's or something like that, where the applicant will put parking directions on his website, I think our techie over here weighed in multimedia efforts, Yelp, whatever, and also the reservationist will tell, you know, mention it, you know, when people call. So and I think we had words for that, and I'd like to see that it put into this particular approval with, but do you recall any of that wordage at all?
I don't have the
City
specific
planner,
language.
on some of the other efforts we've done recently down there in the T-zone to make sure people know in advance where to go rather than drive around the block 3 times.
I know we did it with the that restaurant in the historic building recently. That was
Yeah.
where the condition was added.
We did that, and then
Yeah.
Rocco's, I think we did also.
Rocco's and Fig, we had that condition.
Well, maybe while we are in discussion, perhaps staff
Somebody
could try to either find one of those so that we could drop that in, or could come up with some similar language for us.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Wayne.
Oh, thank you. Looking forward to a new restaurant there. Previous restaurant had some issues. One of the biggest issues, and I'm glad to hear that you're not interested in the amplified music, but the other restaurant that was there, residents from Cabrillo complained. Residents next to the Shore, the landscaping place up the street complained. The Shore Gardens complained, but the residents adjacent to them. So, I mean, it was really a very difficult situation. And one of the conditions, and I want to be sure that you understand what the conditions are here, is that when they are, when you have music, you are to close your doors and your windows, without exception. And that is something that you need to do and you need to understand. So I want to be sure that you understand that when this conditional use permit. But I'm looking forward to a new restaurant there, to say the least. But I just wanted to caution you on that.
Sure.
Don?
Yeah, I want to compliment, I think, between the architect and design review, the five-sided building approach with all the mechanical that's getting shielded and moved on the roof. And I applaud bringing the Spanish colonial type architecture to the downtown area. I mean, you didn't have to do that. You could have just moved in like the shore did. So I think this will go a long way to helping our area, and along with some of the condition use. But I think the Van Slyckes we just went through a very exhaustive downtown parking study, and I think the council just approved it, of which I think, if I recall, Cliff, Granada, there's more time limiting going on, we've asked for more enforcement in that area, in the 200 block and 100 block and all those parking lots on that side. I believe it's going to start phasing in 16 or 18 points that we went through 4 or 5 times with you. So the parking lot is shared with the post office and the real. I oftentimes will park there just to go to the post office. So I'll probably see Commissioner Viggelson in there having his breakfast when I go by the post office and stuff like that. But I think I'm going to supportive of the project. It's architecturally in good taste. Parking is tight down there, and enforcement, and please enforce with your staff to move further out. And so that's going to be a big emphasis downtown. So I think we have a very fine addition for downtown, and that's all I need to say.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who came on first, so should we just start with Bart and work down?
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with what Don said, and the fact that we understand what we're tasked with here tonight. We know that F is not one of the findings we have to make. I am in full support of the project, and I want to compliment the applicant and their architect on taking the cost and the initiative to upgrade the building for Del Mar, and I will support the project, and best of luck.
Jim?
Well, far be it from me to deny Wayne another waffle place. I know he wants that, but I think other people have kind of already said a lot of what I would say. I said a lot in design review. I'm grateful that the applicant is going to be bringing the building more in compliance with Spanish colonial. I think it's a good effort. You've always got to be careful with something like this. It's not a Spanish colonial building. You can just make it, kind of more compatible with the area, and I think they're doing a good job of that. So, so I'm excited about the new restaurant. I'll be there for waffles too. So,
Michael?
Well, I'm very supportive of this project too, and I want to commend the owners for doing a remodeling of this when, in fact, it wasn't really necessarily required. It's certainly a huge improvement from what's there today, and everybody, it's a very visible site too. So, I think that that's showing good sense and good courtesy for the community. With that said, though, if I can be a little bit picky, I'm looking at the site plan. Can we have the picture of Lee's view from his living room?
That's his living room.
He's not that tall up. He's more horizontal. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Hold it right there. This project is a beautification of our city, and I really appreciate that. I'm sure we all appreciate it. But I'm looking at those 2 dead patches of planting on either side of the parking lot, thinking, if that's leased by you, which I'm not sure it is, but if it is leased by you, I would like to request that you consider putting some landscaping in there, because it would really make everything much better. And it's a missing tooth right now in the smile of San Clemente.
I take it water-saving plants, right?
Yes. Waffle trees.
Yeah, I mean, if we can add some plants in there and make it look nicer, I personally, for me,
My recollection is that we did speak about landscaping at design review, and while you couldn't add any new landscaping, you were going to make sure to address the landscaping in the spaces that were provided. So,
That's correct. Those
but-
were more towards the building, but yeah, this is something, I don't know if we got into these two particular plans here, but I don't see a big issue.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just kind of tagging on to what Jim said, you know, I think often it's hard for people when, even for planning commissioners, when we say that, you know, our goal in the architectural overlay is to move buildings, even those with very nondescript or perhaps more than that architecture that seems contrary or at odds with Spanish colonial, and they have no idea how that's ever going to happen. You know, I think this is a good example of, with, you know, some, without heroic measures, but some expense, the applicant was able to do that. And I think, you know, over time, it'll blend in with the street, and nobody will ever remember the United California Bank building, which I am old enough, although not as old as Wayne. I am old enough to remember having gone through that drive-through, and I think having my first bank account there. So anyway, I'm very supportive of the project, and if we can have the condition of approval that was flashing up earlier, so that we could all take a look at it and see if we want to add that in.
I do have one question.
Yes.
Will you be providing heat on the patios? And that will be built in?
Oh,
It will be on the back face of the beams above, so it will not be visible from the street.
I
Okay.
believe that's a condition of approval, because
Yeah.
the staff is doing that as a standard.
Okay, good. I was just wondering because a previous occupant had these flare heater type things, which of course are prohibited by the fire department if they're so close to the structure, which he had to get rid of. It was, okay.
Yeah, staff, one thing I have to compliment staff on, they've been doing this on a regular basis, even when an applicant does not specify that they want heaters. Staff takes the initiative to say that if you're going to have heaters, this is the way they have to be, so that they know early on. And I'd forgotten the one thing I did want to add. I believe there was discussion in design review that you were considering putting a plaque about Hamilton cotton. Is that still in the plan?
Yes, that is.
That was in the plan.
As Eric mentioned, Hamilton's, we wanted to do something, we wanted to name the restaurant something that was related to the city of San Clemente. And there were so many Oli this and Oli that, we kind of struggled with it. But yeah, so we named it Hamilton's after Hamilton Cotton. And you know, we've had a couple different ideas for when you come in. We've seen that there's very few pictures that we've been able to find in our research, actually, that would kind of lend themselves to something like that. But we found a couple, and then we may go that way. We've also talked about I believe it's the city crest going in there. So there's different things that we're doing to.
I think the city would rather that you didn't use, oh, by the way, if you're going to continue, you should step up to the mic so the people at home can hear what, I'm sure they'll think it's one of the most interesting.
Maybe the city crest is the wrong one, a historical, or there's something that we talked to the Historical Society about doing. But none of those plans have been finalized yet in terms of the interior finishes, because we're still obviously going through the building permit process and all those other things.
But you are planning on.
But we want to do something in there because otherwise people won't understand what the name's about. So there's going to be a story on, for sure, on the menus on the backside. There'll be a little history about where Hamilton's come from, who he is. We've already come up with some language around that. And yeah, we're going to figure out something where it makes sense. Otherwise, it's, you know, where's Hamilton? Can I meet Hamilton? It's like, well, he's not here. It's named after one of the founders of the city. So, yeah, that's the
All right,
idea.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so did that give you time, Jim, to get that condition of approval back up?
It was on
Impressive.
Okay.
I think you only need the last sentence in it, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so perhaps the motion maker can include that?
I'll
Oh, and that would be you, Don?
I'll volunteer if you
Okay.
want me to.
Or Bonnie, did you have another question, or were you trying to make the motion?
Well, I was just kind of looking forward to the senior menu.
No.
And I thought I just might mention, we have an organization called San Clemente Village that's getting off the ground. And it attempts, as we have a growing senior population in San Clemente, we try to have partnerships with different businesses. And to draw them in and include them in things that are affordable. And so let's not forget them in the family planning and menus. It's called SanClementeVillage.org, I think is the website.
Is our techie happy with that language for the media there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
With that, I'll propose a resolution that we approve resolution number PC 15-019, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Clemente approving conditional use permit CUP 15-024 and a minor cultural heritage permit 15-025 Hamilton's Restaurant, a public hearing to consider a request to allow an exterior remodel to a building to accommodate restaurant use, a full range of alcohol for on-site consumption, and amplified live entertainment. The building is located at 201 Avenida Del Mar with the addition of conditional approval item number 36. The applicant shall provide the off-site parking location on their website and other electronic media forms, e.g., for example, email, Facebook, etc.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes it. Yes?
Did you were mentioning some additional landscaping, or was just, do we want to add?
Do we have to reopen?
Or the applicant, the city was going to do it, is that good enough?
We all heard.
You guys are all witnesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or free waffles.
Senior coupons.
I think, I'm comfortable with the applicant's word, if the others are.
That's fine.
Okay, but we will hunt you down like a dog. And you know Wayne knows where to find you. All right, well, congratulations, and we all look forward to having waffles, et cetera.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to reports of commissioners. Anything new from Coastal?
Coastal Committee, the night after we went through the land use plan, in fact, reviewed the Chapter 4 of it, the ESHA per request from January, and we're...
I just wanted to interrupt and say, having worked all over California, your staff did a wonderful job in a very easy city to process a project.
Oh, can we turn his mic on?
No, right. So, but seriously, I want you all to know that however it's coming down to the customer and user, it's very much appreciated. So
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. That's good to hear. There's been a lot of work moving in that direction, so I'm glad it's been noticed. Great, thank you.
At any rate, we went over Chapter 4 of the ESHA because that report wasn't available when the Coastal Committee reviewed the original effort in January, and of course, having just reviewed it the night before was very helpful. I think that the committee was very appreciative of the efforts that staff, particularly when they look at the ESHA and the setbacks, some of the various factors that they put in there to try to protect some of the current homeowners close to these coastal bluffs. And so I think they picked up on that in the staff report and were appreciative of the efforts that we have gone so far. So that was the last week's meeting, and next month we'll be potentially having a guest speaker on beach sand replenishment that might be offering. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Don. Okay, if there's nothing else, perhaps there's a motion to adjourn?
Then I will move we adjourn to the study session to be held at 6 p.m. on June 3rd, 2015, in council chambers at City Hall located 100 Avenue Presidio, San Clemente, California.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.